Hey guys, welcome to the Marvel Stuff podcast. We're excited to get back to you guys, talk about Wandavision and all the great things. I'm Coach, and joining me today is
Ray
and Josh.
I love you guys. We got a little bit smaller crew today, but we're very excited. We got an awesome episode to talk about, maybe the best episode so far of the season. So we're just going to jump right in. I think you guys are going to like it.
Before we even start about what was in the episode, one thing that I noticed in the previously on part that comes before the episode, there's a clip of Wanda when Vision asks where Geraldine is, and in the show, Wanda says she had to rush home, but in the previously on, she says she doesn't belong here.
I didn't even catch that.
As her reason for why Geraldine isn't there. And I don't know if they just used a different version of the scene, but Marvel also doesn't do
They don't really make a lot of accidents. So maybe it was a word thing.
They definitely got it together so we would know. And I think as you watch the rest of the episode, you kind of realize why that was the case, which I suppose is the point of previously ons, to set us up for what the episode's about to be.
I skipped them. I probably shouldn't because I don't think about it. I'm like, I don't need to. I just watched the last episode. I don't really need to watch the review. But if it's gonna change things, I guess I gotta watch it.
I think it was just I think it's just the cut from when she had talked to Geraldine and told her she didn't belong. So I don't know. Maybe they cut it together in that way. I'm not sure, but it is interesting, and it sets off an awesome episode, which right off the bat,
90s sitcom, 80s sitcom, 80s, 90s. You're right, because it was more Full House.
Yes, exactly. More Full House. I love it. I love the hopping from decade to decade, and I specifically love this one. The wardrobes were great.
Oh, yes.
Her hair was perfect the whole time. It was awesome.
My gosh, it was unbelievable.
I loved the irony of it being Full House themed, and Elizabeth Olsen's sisters were in Full House.
Yes.
Yeah. Just the easy twin joke in there, and it's pretty funny.
And the opening credits for this version, when it showed everybody's baby pictures, and you just see little Elizabeth Olsen. Yes. There's a photo from her when she was on the Mary-Kate and Ashley show, and that just brought me right back to my childhood.
I didn't even realize that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's great. So you jump right in. It looks great. It's exciting. They're going back to the sitcom route, which is awesome. I wasn't sure how much they were going to do that. So they jump back into the sitcom route to start. They have a cool, they do their intro and all that good stuff. But right off the bat, one of the first things is Vision and Agnes kind of have this weird start off kind of moment where it's she gets it, right? She asks for another take.
She's aware.
Yeah, that is super weird. They're building her up as the villain. You'll have to remind me of the name, but it's super interesting because she is definitely aware, and it's building her up. I don't know if she's going to be the big bad of the season or if she's just kind of a side character if we're going Mephisto's route.
So I don't think they are building up to be the villain. So she's based off Agatha Harkness. Seems to be the idea that they're going with, which is traditionally she's just a witch that kind of mentors Scarlet Witch. It kind of helps her out. So, and
that would fit a lot with Agnes.
They can change, but she seems to be the character of the show who's not being mind controlled, right? And we've all seen in the last episode they couldn't find her ID, so she doesn't exist in this town.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But that's interesting. She's not a bad guy. She's more of a mentor. That's pretty cool.
She could be a bad guy in the show, obviously, but it doesn't seem to be though in that route. But it is. She's definitely aware, and as the episode, immediately, Scarlet Witch is no longer even holding this facade up that Agnes is supposed to be aware of the weirdness that's going on. But that double take thing, do you want me to go again, was just super funny.
It was also really awkward. Well, awkward for them, and it was it's really good that they kept it all in there, how weird the interaction was.
Yeah, I wonder. It makes you wonder: is everyone else in the town aware that it's a show, or are they just?
I don't think so. I think they're more under the impression that this is a different reality. I think what's the Vision's coworker's name in the show? But the way that they got him to unlock his real mind, it kind of didn't seem
I think they might almost be in a trance, so they just think this is real life.
Interesting. I got the impression that they think they're stuck on a show and they have to perform. It's hard to tell, right? Because it's all subconscious and weird. But yeah, Agnes definitely knows she's on a show. She knows it's not just a fake life. She realizes like it's a fake show, which was super weird. So then you jump from there right into the kids. Just they grow up, right? Which is
from baby to 5 and then 5 to 10. That was fun.
The thing about the kids, when she's trying to like get them to sleep, her magic doesn't work on them.
I noticed that entirely too. I think that's going to be a big part of the show because it happened again later in the thing where she kind of like had to stop them from aging themselves up a third time by talking to them instead of just letting them do it, and she couldn't stop them herself, so she more had to use her words instead of her powers.
Yeah, so that part's great, and then I just love this idea that they're also power. I don't know what their powers are, but it does seem that they exist, right? They don't. It doesn't seem like they're just
real for sure.
Which is kind of cool. So I think that's cool to realize that they're going that route, that they're real. But the other part of it is Vision. And in that scene with the Agnes, and as the show progresses, Vision is becoming more, I don't know, alive. I don't think he's just becoming more aware. I feel like he's also becoming more alive. He's becoming
well, let's just cover that right now. Do we think that Vision's going to be get back for good, or do we think this whole thing's going to end with him just straight being dead still?
Yep, that's an excellent question.
Well, okay, so Rambo's clothes, when they go and she fires the gun at them, and they're Kevlar.
Yeah.
So the stuff that goes into the hex gets changed, and that's like a permanent change. Like her clothes came out changed.
Does making someone come to life count as a change?
Exactly. So my question is, does that kind of principle apply to Vision and to the kids? If something is made real in the town of Westview, can that be pulled into the rest of reality?
I think that's what Scarlet Witch is trying to figure out. I think that's what she's trying to manipulate.
See if it's real and if she can even go anywhere with this like made up family of hers.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it does the scene. So this is where I think the show is going in the right direction, because now it switches from just sitcom. Like you said, now it's flipping back and forth between the two. So half sitcom, then it switches back to reality, and then sitcom, which I think, first off, do we like that idea? Did we like the sitcom?
I'm glad they handled it that way this time. I don't think it would have been a good idea to exclusively do, because I know I heard someone talking on a podcast where maybe they're going to switch from just the outside world and just the sitcom between episodes. I think it's good that we finally got to see more of a merge. And the scene with Wanda, like literally leaving Westview, is probably the second coolest thing to happen in the episode.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Also, one thing that I noticed right away when she came out, she had like a half Sokovian accent.
Yeah, no, she was full herself, and she was full. Yeah, she was going full Sokovian. Pretty much
like uniform thing on too. Like her clothes had changed, so she's kind of like using that interchangeable thing now. Because as we know, when she cast Monica Rambeau out, it was still Kevlar, but it still looked like the television show. So she's an exception, it seems.
And because they were able to switch back and forth, it leads to that. It can show us the she stole the body scene, which was a cool scene. And it lets you flow without having to wait week to week to learn. So I think that's the right choice, and I think it's kind of working for the show. So the next thing that happens, like we said, I think Vision's kind of becomes more alive. He starts asking questions, and then he kind of just randomly ends up at work. That's kind of when it cuts to his body being stolen, and they're in the real world. They're kind of arguing why she's the bad guy and she's not the bad guy, and Monica's trying to take foot for her, and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. But then it cuts back, and the kids now have the puppy, which I don't know if there's any significance. I guess someone would have to tell me if
Sparky. I've never heard of her. Like, I barely know anything about her kids. I don't think there's any relevance to the dog, really. I think it's just more of like a fun theme for an episode of a sitcom. It's almost a trope at this point. Like, if you have kids, you're almost inevitably going to have an episode where they want a puppy or a kitty or some sort of animal.
So they got the puppy, and Vision's at work, which again is that weird, like, she just sends him to work. He's just kind of at work thing, which is kind of interesting.
I love that his job is just like not really doing anything. The way that they explained his job back in like episode 1 or 2 is honestly hilarious because it's like we don't actually do anything, but we're gonna say we gotta come here and do nothing on these computers.
What are we computing though? The numbers.
I also found it interesting that when the kids asked where Vision was, and she said at work, they said, "But it's Saturday."
That was another thing I forgot to touch on.
Wanda was like, "It's Monday," and I think
they're like, "No, it's not."
The twins are their own entity, so they're like almost aware of, kind of like Agnes. They're aware of the sitcom and like the false reality of it.
Right. Yeah, which
definitely.
Is super cool that they were able to just be like,
maybe,
but it's not though. You don't need to switch back and forth like that, which is cool. Oh, the one other thing I really want to hit on, because we talked about it last week, and it kind of confirmed it this week. She only stole that body 9 days ago.
We did discuss that. Like, what's the actual time frame here?
Which confirms that, like, I think she's only been in Westfield for 4 days, like doing like this sitcom. What we've been watching has only taken place over the course of maybe 3 or 4 days
per episode. Yeah, maybe something like that.
So that's crazy to me that this is all developing so fast. And what she's doing is like rapid fire. Like she is growing. She is changing things in such an immediate time.
Becoming more powerful for sure, and just having all of these creative choices. She's like, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. And then she's really coming into her own powers and embracing it fully. But
it's also interesting that reality is breaking so quickly on her. It's only been 4 days in there, and already Vision's like, he gets it. He realizes this is not real. He's already like, you know what I mean? So it's
about the confrontation scene. It was really weird because as Vision kind of like realizes what's going on and confronts Wanda, like they're arguing and she's kind of freaking out about that because she's like, you've never spoken to me like this before. What, like, she doesn't know what's going on, and she's controlled this whole universe, but that's not something that she's doing. And like the doorbell, that's not something that she did. So there's either some sort of outside force, or Vision is like really becoming real, or I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what the episode wants us to consider, right? Because he breaks into I can't think of his coworker's name either, Roy or something weird. Someone will message us and let us know, but we're
fake fans.
Fake fans.
Someone is screaming into their computer right now.
For sure.
Well, that's all right. Nobody likes that person anyway. Unless he likes and subscribes to this video, then we do like you. But when he figures it out there, it's interesting that that he knew that he could, right? That he was like, oh wait, I can do this. I can
it was
his mind.
Very quick that he figured it out, and he's just like, oh, okay, so I can see that this is real. I wonder if I can use the same type of thought to bring this guy back to him real self. That was a cool scene for sure.
But then he puts him right back under the spell, which
that was interesting. But it was also like, is he just being petty? He's like, this guy's being really annoying right now, and my vibe is getting all screwed. I need to focus. I can't deal with your crap right now. Have fun back in your thing.
I almost think it's like Vision's form of compassion, because when he kind of woke up, he realized what was going on. And so we kind of put him back like under just to like stop him panicking.
I can't get you out. I can't save you right now. So
might as well end your panicking for the time being.
Yeah, but at the same time, he did say it's like excruciating pain. So it's like, it's kind of a toss up on what the right thing to do is. But hey, we didn't write the show. I'm sure. Right. I'm sure they have reasons for things.
And the show's does a good job of like showing up, because this is the same time frame that the Monica realizing her clothes are still Kevlar kind of scene. So it's merging like what we realize about her powers from both angles at the same time, which was great. But then, like we said, obviously now we go back to Westfield after that, and she's with the kids. They're looking for the puppy. Obviously, Agnes finds it. Agnes is always there with what is needed at any given time, because of course she is. And then there's the sad scene with the puppy dying.
Killing the puppy thing, I was pretty upsetting.
God, we're all so weak, dude. That puppy was only in there for 6 minutes, and yet we're all still.
Yeah, well,
sad.
if it was a human that was only on there for 6 minutes, I wouldn't care about that human.
It's an animal.
It's unbelievable, man. John
So
Wick,
much
that
more
puppy was
pure.
alive for 30 seconds, and we all cried about it.
Got a trilogy on him getting pissed about it.
We love puppies, and we love
I
when
haven't
puppies
even
die.
seen the John Wick series, but I understood that reference.
Well, that's good.
Way to go, Cap.
We're proud of you guys. But yeah, so they find the puppy. The puppy's dead. I don't know if the puppy ever existed or what's going on there. But I do have a kind of a theory about it. But first, we'll just talk through it. She finds the puppy. Agnes has the puppy. The puppy's dead. The kids are like confronting Wanda now with like, just bring it back. Bring it back.
We know you can. It's like, how do you know I can?
I know,
And
right?
Agnes is shook. She's like, you can do that?
Yeah, that's kind of wild. It's a good point.
Because she doesn't notice or get weirded out by anything. And then that's what catches her.
I can't tell if she was like genuinely surprised that she could, or if
she
she was
didn't
just,
act
like,
surprised. I don't know.
It's hard to say.
Maybe at the same time, though, like Vision isn't actually a human. Is he easier or more difficult to bring back from the dead? Is it like fixing a computer more than trying to revive a dead body?
No, I think she could. I think if she wanted to, she could reanimate the dead.
Then why didn't she bring back her real brother? No.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If
Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
That's weird. Spoiler alert. You guys.
It's a Wandavision.
I haven't talked about the end of the episode yet. It hasn't happened yet. I haven't seen it. I'm kidding. So puppy's dead. Wanda refused to bring back. And then there's that sweet, like, there's the sweet scene of she's trying to tell her kids, like, hey, there's rules. Like, even though I have all this power, there are still rules.
Very 80s TV show. I love that they hit on all the cliches of TV shows of that era. And they're like, let's lean into this because everybody knows exactly what we're talking about.
I did find it funny how she's like, there's rules and like you can't bring people back from the dead and like some things are permanent. And I was like, Wanda, you're doing that same thing with Vision. What's happening?
That's the point. That's the nonsense. I think that's the whole fun little tension of the show. And that's why, in my theory, in my head, I feel like Agnes found that puppy and did the whole thing on purpose to make Wanda see it and like realize, like, hey, this is the rules. You know the rules. So that's why I kind of feel like it was probably Agnes who purposely found this dead puppy, which who knows if it was even real at any point, to try to like make her see it. Which we'll see if that kind of happens, but I
want to see what type of power Agnes has, because if she's like a quote unquote mentor for Wanda, is she like assisting in any way in this Westview, or does she just like, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to hang out? It's not like she's trapped there. So really, what's the point of her being there?
Yeah, it's interesting. And we'll just keep jumping around because you go back to the argument. There is a moment during the argument where Wanda like says, and it feels very genuine. She's like, I don't know how this all started. And I believe it. So could it be like an Agnes bubble and like they got introduced into this thing and slowly Wanda's gotten control, or is it just all Agnes's thing? These are all things. It's getting more and more into conspiracy theory, but at the same time, you got a really powerful witch. It's weird to know what's reality and not reality. But it's very fascinating what's going on. She tries to teach her kids the lesson, but like obviously ignores the irony that she's not also receiving the lesson herself, which is everything I've ever known about parents in my entire life in reality, right? I was just going to touch on that with the twins is like, do as I say, not as I do. It's like your kid swears at you one time. You're like, you're not supposed to say that. What are you talking about, Mom? You literally just said that. But instead of it being swear words, it's more like, you brought our dad back from the dead. Why can't you bring back our puppy? Just taking it to an extreme, but it is a parent trope for sure. It's such a parent trope to not realize the lesson you're trying to teach your kid. But interestingly enough, when it gets called out, once the droid comes and everything, she immediately she's still headstrong on it. Like she's not gonna not let Vision be alive. But yeah, then there's the scene, right? The droid comes in, which first off, the idea that they had to like, hey, if we bring in 80s technology, it won't change. That's genius. That is pretty good foresight. It's definitely good writing. good writing, smart thinking. Like, I think it's kind of clever, and you could argue that it's, a last second thing, but it works. It's great. They get Vision in there. And of course, like all shows, the government guy inside, like, let's just shoot the person, which went about as well as you would expect. It didn't. So
one thing I did notice about that guy is when they were kind of briefing who Wanda was, he asked, so she doesn't have like a silly nickname or anything. And I'm almost wondering if she's going to get the nickname Scarlet Witch in the TV show, or if it'll still happen like in Doctor Strange.
I think they wanted to tease it there so that they could give it to her later. They're going to give her an alias. She's going to be Scarlet Witch.
I don't remember. Did we touch on the possible Fantastic Four reference that happened in the last episode? Did we talk about that on last week's episode?
We did not.
Where Monica Rambeau is working for SWORD, and she's talking to the guy that really has her job that she's supposed to, and he's saying, we stopped all extraterrestrial travel because this, that, and the other thing, but in a way it could have been referenced to Fantastic Four. At least that's something I've been hearing on podcasts and stuff. I don't know if that's worth noting, but I know we didn't. I don't think we would last week.
She notes again something about a nuclear physicist I know in this one. So they're definitely connecting it with as many small dots as they can out into the world. Because that's the nice part of the show, is obviously everything is connected. So it's funny to me that we as fans sometimes get excited, like, oh, they reference the Hulk. Like,
yeah, it's because it happened.
Like, she fought with the Hulk. It's not, but it is interesting, and you never know, because we want to know what's coming back, and we kind of want to know what order. So it's exciting. It's cool stuff there.
Talk about one other thing that Vision had brought up, the fact that there are no kids in Westview, so he's obviously getting that thing. And do we think there's a reason behind that? Like, she doesn't feel like she can manipulate children, or at least she doesn't want to, because she feels that's wrong in some way because they're kids?
I got to imagine it was like a choice. But also, where are the kids, right? Man, I don't think I've ever thought about where the kids are.
Right, yeah. Well, it's at the same time, isn't like Eastview the like real world like cops that are over here? So maybe somehow is Eastview an actually different city, or is it a bunch of Westview residents that were kind of like booted from the Hex? I actually don't know that.
I don't know either. Well, yeah, it's weird. I don't even know if those cops were real. For all we know, they could have had weird
that's a good point.
projections out into the world. For all we know, but I don't believe Eastview is a real town. I don't think I can say that pretty definitively. But the interest, I don't even know if those cops could have just been weird things that she sent out. Maybe they came back into the town. But yeah, the kids, man, where are the kids? I haven't heard a single theory of where they are.
I mean, the kids can age. Her kids can age themselves up. Is there a way that she just decides? That's too far, I think.
She wouldn't have done that, and the show wouldn't do that. They don't want to make her like this weird like kid killer person. But I think she's either got them hiding somewhere and like just they're being taken care of somewhere else, or they've been released out. I don't know. That's a weird one that we'll have to just unpack it.
I mean, they addressed it intentionally. I feel like if they wouldn't have mentioned it, I don't think very many people would have been like, hey, where are the kids? Because it's just not something you'd really think about.
When I think it was episode 2, when they were doing the whole for the kids thing, a friend of mine noted there's no kids in this town. Why are they doing something for the kids?
I did not notice that there was no kids there.
They're like, nobody has kids. Why?
Yeah. I mean, I have to assume that part of it's that she doesn't want to mind control kids. She probably doesn't feel comfortable with it, so it's probably why she doesn't do it. What does she do with them in the meantime? We don't know. But
one fun thing that I was listening to a different podcast, and they talked about what is the first actual mutant you want to see introduced into this, other than the one we know about, obviously.
Well, if it's not the person you see, you are disappointed. There's already been a first one, but yeah, we're excited, and we'll kind of let's hit on that, because
like a Professor X or like an Emma Frost. There's a lot of different people that could be. Namor is the first official mutant. Would there be a reason he'd be there?
Jumping forward, and we'll just jump forward with him. At the end of the episode, we see an X-Men show up.
The Evan Peters X-Men.
The Evan Peters X-Men. And it's exciting. It's awesome.
I was excited.
I was really upset.
She was upset.
because I was anticipating the original actor and I got super excited. And then when it cut around and it wasn't him, I was really upset that they recast him. And then I was like, wait, no. That's
multiverse.
He plays Quicksilver in a different universe.
Exactly. So I think it's fun. Do we think there's any chance they bring back the actual actor? I mean, there's no rules. They're Kevin Feige and Marvel. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I don't know, because Darcy is at the TV and says, "Wait, what? She recast her brother?" So I don't know.
That's great. I've known this is one of the great spoilers I've known about for a while now. Months I've known that he was going to come, and it was going to be he's playing. He's not just playing Quicksilver, as in her brother. He is not playing her brother. He is playing Quicksilver. From X-Men, from Fox.
Now, it's been a while since I've seen the movie that he was in. Does he have that, like, accent?
No, absolutely not. No, that was very much like, I think he was just trying to be 80s guy.
Yeah, that was definitely an 80s accent.
It's just like trying to be slick 80s guy.
Better because one of the X-Men movies is based in the 80s, and he did not do that.
He did not have that accent at all. No. But so that's exciting. It's great, and that does lead to that question. Now that the X-Men are here, I think you could say
singular.
That's true. For all we only know for sure, but I feel like you wouldn't bring back one X-Men from the Fox universe.
Yeah, I think I touched on that last week a little bit. Is like, do we think, like, I kind of want to see, because the new generation of mutants, while Dark Phoenix was kind of not that great of a movie, the kids that are playing the X-Men now are young enough to continue playing these X-Men, and they're all talented actors.
Yeah, I've seen Game of Thrones. Sophie Turner's okay.
Yeah, and then Ready Player One, what's that kid's name? He plays Cyclops in the X-Men movies, and like I enjoy him. Yeah. I think he's a good actor, and the age kind of lines up. I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to recast every character, kind of just pretend that other universe didn't happen. There's a lot of
I think they're bringing them all back. I think they're bringing the Fox, like, young kids. They might also do the old ones because it's multiverse and you can do
McAvoy
but it's probably going to be McAvoy. It's probably going to be Fassbender. It's going to be that group is going to come back. I feel confident in saying that most of them will make appearances / be in MCU films. They're not going to get recast. I don't think they're going to have a new, like we were arguing about Wolverine. I don't think they're going to do a new Wolverine. I think they'll either convince Hugh Jackman to come back
or just leave him out.
I don't know that Marvel would introduce like a bunch of the X-Men. I think it would be more like a cameo kind of thing where you'd like see some of the X-Men, but they wouldn't have like their own like show or movie.
They gotta eventually have an X-Men movie, right?
Yeah, they own the rights now. It's different than what it is for like the Hulk, who can't have his own solo movie where it's got, or Spider-Man, they had that weird partnership and you don't want to get into that universe.
Yeah. I feel like they fully own the X-Men. So it's, first off, that's interesting, right? Do we like the idea of like, hey, we're not going to create our own X-Men. We're not going to try to explain away why they weren't in the other movies. We're just going to pick up other X-Men and just move them over here.
Yeah, because
so interesting. Go ahead, Ray.
Like when they did Spider-Man, they had a new Spider-Man come in when they got him. Right. And now that they have X-Men, they're not bringing new people in to play the characters. They're bringing the old people in to play the characters.
Yes. I think it's interesting, and because what we know about Doctor Strange and that there's going to be
multiverse of madness. There has to be introductions from all these different universes.
So it's definitely fascinating, and I think it's going to be cool. I think that it'll make sense to bring them all in as like their own movie. But they could mix and match and pick who they want, and some people from that Earth and some from ours get their mutant powers magically or something. But what I find fascinating is, how did he get there? How did he?
Yeah, if it wasn't Wanda, who? I know. I thought the exact same thing.
She did not know who was there, and she was shocked when she opened that door.
As anyone else. Also, she kind of questioned who he was for a second.
She did not recognize him.
Yeah, but then she hugs him. Like, so I think because she wants him to be alive so bad, she was
surprised to see him again. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so again, it's been a while since I've seen any X-Men movies.
Yeah,
what's Quicksilver's name? Like that actor's version of Quicksilver? Does he have a first name?
I think it's still Pietro. Honestly,
it might be. I don't even know if they might say it in the first one. No,
Going to Google.
but he's very much like in the third next one. Like they show him as Magneto's son and everything.
Yeah, that's the cool thing is like in this scenario that Evan Peters has met his own father, and they could reintroduce Fassbender, and then he's like, "Hey, sister, Elizabeth Olsen, that's our dad," because as they touched on in this episode, their actual history, according to the records, is like their parents died how long ago before the the events of Age of Ultron.
Right. His name is Peter.
Yes, Peter. Yes, Peter.
Makes sense.
So close.
But it is fascinating because he has a dad and she doesn't have a dad, because the MCU versions, their parents were not.
Yeah, they even mentioned that in the episode.
That's
that they
yeah, we
died.
touched on that for a second. That's really interesting. I don't know how they're going to write it up. And I might be in the minority, but like the X-Men movies were my favorite Marvel movies for a while. I mean, obviously they've been surpassed many times over, but that was my introduction to Marvel itself, really, because the first X-Men movie came out in 2000. I was 5 years old. That kind of lines up there. So Wolverine's always been my favorite character, and those movies, like, they're very hit or miss. So are they going to like kind of retroactively take away some of the events? Are we going to not touch on their past at all and just be like, here's the character, here's this, maybe a couple of these things happened, or is it just going to be like a reset and all these characters are back? What do we?
You mean the X-Men coming in? No, I think they're still going to have the experience of what they've experienced at Fox, which I think is what makes it kind of crazy.
Because he's wearing the same costume.
So I think they're going to come with the experience of like, hey, we've done this, we've fought Apocalypse, I think they're going to come with that experience already, which I think will make it interesting. Now, timeline-wise, we don't know how that lines up, right? The 80s
that doesn't work. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, because in X-Men Apocalypse, I believe you get a little shot of Quicksilver holding his little sister in that universe, wearing like a pink dress and like a red crown, and very much referencing that's supposed to be Wanda. And I believe that one's set in the 80s. So it's like, it's a weird timeline thing. It's probably just nitpicking, but at the same time, I'm like, well, if this is the 80s and Evan Peters is here, she should be like 5. What's going on here? Because they're not, obviously they're twins in the comics in most versions.
Yeah. I guess when you're traveling from a universe to a universe, like, I don't know how the time world works in there. If I go from one universe to another universe, maybe I lose 20 years. I don't know.
Okay, this might be a long shot and might sound crazy. Kind of sounds crazy to me, but this is Marvel and they can do whatever they want. So the kids, when they sit down with Wanda, they say, "Do you have a brother?" And she says, "I do," not did. And he's far away and she misses him. Do you think the kids brought him?
Ooh, that's fun. I never even would have thought of that. I enjoy that.
That literally just occurred to me.
What are the chances that those kids are really big X-Men movie fans? They're just like, hey, let's just bring that guy over here.
They could have. They're definitely, it seems like they're that powerful, right? It seems like they're...
Yeah, they couldn't bring Pietro back from the dead, so they found his equivalent in another universe.
Right. That definitely could be the case. That's one thing. Let's continue down these different rabbit holes. I like that theory. That's probably my favorite one. So I hope that ends up being the case. There's also just the idea, because the original comic book storyline, right? She like kill off a bunch of X-Men or something, right?
So in the House of M storyline, she actually kills 3 Avengers. She kills Hawkeye, Ant-Man, and Vision. And those are the 3 that she kills off in that storyline. And then they kind of go to that alternate universe, and she brings back Hawkeye in the alternate universe, along with there's no sight of Vision in the comic book arc that I read. Right. The only character to re-show up out of the 3 that she killed was Hawkeye.
Yeah. Didn't she do something to the X-Men, though? I feel like she was somehow connected to, like...
Yeah, no. So essentially, how the story starts is, the House of M storyline is it's following this major event where Wanda kind of lost control and stuff, and then the Avengers and the X-Men have a meeting to kill Scarlet Witch or try and help her in another way, because Professor X is trying to control Scarlet Witch in the comic book, like help her maintain a sense of reality, but she's so powerful that the X-Men and the Avengers have to kind of embrace that their true options. Like if she can alter reality,
Right.
and that's one of the saddest scenes in the thing is like Magneto, who's her dad in this scenario, he essentially accepts defeat because Quicksilver gets on him. He's like, how could you do this? She's your daughter. We can't let them do this. And then Magneto just looks at his son and is like, what would you have me do? Because there's really not much that he can do.
So I wonder if somehow, some way, like she had affected a reality in a different universe, right? She had like somehow killed off the X-Men. I believe that's kind of what the cataclysmic event she pulls off is that she had like wiped out like a large.
Oh, at the very end. At the very end of the story, yes, she says no more mutants, which isn't entirely true because a couple of them still have their powers. That's some weird altering thing where it's like it's comic stuff, but a majority of the mutants, because you see a shot of Cerebro earlier in the comic arc, and it shows, same as the X-Men movies, where it's got all the dots that show all the mutants, and then at the end of the comic, it shows the mutants again, and there's like 2 dots in Europe, 1 dot in Russia, a couple dots in South Africa. It's just so condensed that there's like probably less than 100 in the visual. So that's an interesting thing.
So is it possible that a future version of the X-Men in the Fox universe got wiped out and they realized like, well, how did this happen? Oh, it happened because this witch in a different universe. And then they went back in time and like sent Quicksilver to her to try to prevent it.
That's a fun theory. I like hers a little more because
I like hers better too.
Less convoluted. But that is another theory that they're like, okay, so in this universe we die, we got to save everyone. Let's go back, send in the Trojan horse, and have him try and reason with her.
Yeah, because it is weird that it is a different Quicksilver. So there's got to be a reason for it, whatever that reason is. If it's because of kids, like the kids had manifested it into existence, like that's dope that they're that powerful.
The actor was busy actually, so they just decided to recast him. He didn't want to.
It's specifically the one from the Fox movies because it's the same costume, same actor, and like you could recast Quicksilver and like just play it off like nothing happened.
Yeah, you could
but they picked that specific actor.
Yeah, no, they definitely did it intentionally, and I love that they did it. And there's definitely going to be a cool explanation. I just think it's funny to think that they just were like, you know what, this guy knows how to play this character. We'll just get him.
I was so happy when we saw the back of the head because
it looked a little short to me.
It was the silver hair, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's back. Wanda's gonna be so happy and so confused. And then it cut around, and it's like, oh, wow.
No.
I think it broke your heart a little different because you said you haven't seen the X-Men movies in a while. It's like, he's a very lovable character in those movies. He's in three. He's super fun. I enjoy him. And honestly, I like him better than the one that was in Age of Ultron just because the one from Age of Ultron, once he got like 20 minutes of screen time, but you compare it to this lovable Quicksilver from a different universe that has at least an hour, 2 hours of screen time between the 3 movies.
Yeah, he's definitely fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how his character plays out, but I was really sad that it wasn't the original Marvel.
Aaron Johnson is the actor.
Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Taylor Johnson. Yeah, I had the middle. Yeah. I had to try to remember. Just quizzing myself. I couldn't remember.
Yeah. Well, all right. So let's make sure did we miss any like major moments? There was she walks out and she talks to him. I don't know if we learned a lot there, other than like that she is fully aware of what she's doing, and she doesn't care that they know.
The almost fight scene was something we could talk about too, like where Vision and Wanda were up in each other's grill, lifted off the ground.
A lot of interesting things were said
because she wasn't controlling that.
Right? Yeah. No. And she tried to end the episode with the credits, which I thought was
that was so good, so good. They're like credits, and they're like, "Nah, I'm not done. This isn't the end of the episode." And he goes
that's almost why I think like Vision is becoming more like sentient, like. Mm-hmm. Which makes me hopeful that he can exist outside of Westview.
Yeah, we can wish and hope, and honestly, I'd be pumped about it. But at the same time, it's like we talked about it last episode. We almost want the tragedy to be reality just because it's so heartbreaking, and it could push her to that villain status that she does get to, and she has redemption arcs just as every other comic book character does. but she is building up to be a very, very big bad in the Marvel universe. And I think it's all based on essentially what's going to happen to Vision, if she's going to crack or not.
Right. Yeah. So it is interesting. The fight's interesting. I saw I'm not going to take credit for it, but I listened to a YouTube theory from I think they're called the Carlin brothers. You guys can look them up. They're great. And he had a theory about Vision becoming more alive, which is kind of where I was already my headspace was. And this idea that she was learning how to bring him alive. She wasn't quite sure how to do it. The fact that the early episodes were in black and white was because that's what he became when he died. And she was kind of excited because if you notice, she's excited when he has color. So I don't think she did that part. And then once he had color, she was like, oh, wait, this is great.
Everything can have color.
Now everything can have color. Now you can fit. So I think it's exciting. And I think he is becoming more alive, right? He's not just randomly learning more things. As he's there and as he becomes more alive.
Well, that's just the basis of his character is he's always learning, adapting, realizing his environment. It's kind of just his whole shtick. So it makes sense that he's slowly becoming more aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which day, though,
reminds me, in a previous episode, it may have been the one before, that he looks into the camera for a hot sec.
Do we think that legendary Paul Bettany just made a mistake? Probably not.
No. They don't. No.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think at the end of the day, though, I don't think he's going to make it out of the end of WandaVision season 1 and be alive again. But whether he becomes fully alive and sentient and by himself, I think by the time this show ends, he is going to be back to being dead. I think it'll be his choice. I think he'll have to sit one down and
scenario.
I'm not supposed to be alive. I want to be alive. I want to be with you, but I'm not supposed to be. We can't sacrifice other people.
Yeah, that's a big cliche in any resurrection story. How was the Harry Potter, the three brothers? That's very much the story of the brother and his wife. I'm not supposed to be here. So.
I think, like you said, Vision's fate is really gonna decide which way Scarlet goes or Wanda goes.
Yeah.
I can't wait till Doctor Strange, man. I love Doctor Strange is one of my favorite MCU characters, so getting to see him do a movie like the Multiverse of Madness, and it's already confirmed that she's going to be in it, obviously, so going to be such a good movie.
I'm hoping by the end of this season, which I know is coming up quickly, I'm kind of hoping she runs her whole arc. I don't hope it ends with, she's now a bad guy. She lost her mind or something. I hope, the next couple episodes, she kind of has to lose it, and she comes to turn by the end. I'm kind of hoping it wraps itself up by the end of this season.
Obviously, there are some exceptions, but I think that's a big thing in the Marvel Universe that's going to be fun to watch, is instead of a bad just being a bad from beginning to end, they get defeated at the end, very Ultron, where he starts here, and then at the end he's gone. There's more of a villain arc, with the obvious exception of Thanos, but even Thanos himself didn't have that much of a storyline that led him to be the big bad. When Scarlet Witch, we've got when did Age of Ultron come out? 2015? 15? Yeah, that's 6 years of character development, and then you could have her just flip the switch. That's just the ultimate. You want to root for the bad guy if she turns bad, obviously. But I love that about villains in movies, and it makes them so you love them. You feel bad and you don't agree with everything they say, but you almost want to root for them because you know the pain that they've been through. And I think that's just the best thing about some movie villains, and I think Marvel's going to do a great job.
Yeah, it's possible. But I hope not. I just hope she ends the show with a redemption and she lets Vision go and everyone's happy and her kids grow up to be awesome.
Believe me, I don't hate her or anything. She's cool. I'd be super excited for that too. I just seeing her as a big bad would be fun.
It would be different for sure.
So, can we pull Loki into Doctor Strange too? Because then we'll have Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and Loki. It's the Powerpuff Girls. Red, blue, and green.
That's pretty funny. I don't think that's what they're going for over at Marvel, but
I should have had
on board.
Picture queued up so I could just throw it on screen right now, but I don't, because I did not see that reference coming up at any point today.
That was a fun one.
No, pardon me.
I'm gonna make that fan art.
Well, that's good. Join us in the Marvel Facebook group. It's great.
Yeah. We got some funny stuff that gets posted there.
Every now and then. All right. So so we've covered WandaVision. It's great. Next episode's going to be great. I don't actually have any idea because this episode kind of ended in such a, I don't know, pretty clean way. I guess all we really
there's a cliffhanger, but clean, like a clean one.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, he's here now, but it's like, yeah, he's here now. So it's not like you're.
The next episode will be in the 90s. Other than that, I have no idea what's going to happen.
That's going to be fun, though. The 90s sitcoms is going to be fun. It was Saved by the Bell. What one was that, 80s? Or was that 90s?
90s.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what are the best
intro
90s
are they going to parody?
Friends? Friends is a big 90s one.
Right. It's got to be Friends, right? You got to do Friends. There's got to be some sort of coffee shop reference. I just feel like that's the way to go.
I did watch a mid-season trailer that Disney put out, and at one point, Wanda is talking to the camera, so I think they're going to do like a Modern Family, Office, Parks and Rec kind of reference.
Oh, okay, that's
more 2000s. So
but so that'll be like further down, but
it's got to be Friends. You got to do some sort of Friends
for
thing.
Sure.
It's jumping around. Hopefully, there's a weird pond that they dance in or something, and a couch that's in the middle of nowhere. Some sort of reference to it.
Something. What I don't. Forgive me. I don't know all of my old sitcoms. But what's the show where he can just be like the one character can just go stop and pause time? Are they going to do something silly like that? That was a sitcom, right? I'm trying to remember the name of it.
You know who they could parody? Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I was just thinking that, actually. That's what made me think.
Didn't they kind of reference that in the last episode? Or that was more Bewitched, yeah. I guess
that's more right. Bewitched. Yeah, it's more Bewitched, yeah. But Sabrina the Teenage Witch is definitely a 90s show. So that could be what it is. But there's more going on in the Marvel Universe than just WandaVision. And we're going to break down some cool news to look forward to, starting, of course, with the news about Wakanda.
Hell yeah.
In the borderline officially confirmed, but not officially confirmed, Wakanda TV show.
That's going to be so cool.
Is Fire. I have a pretty good inside track that this is kind of spoilerish. It's not spoilers to any of the shows or movies, but it is spoilers to news that we will eventually get. I feel pretty confident saying they're also one of those shows are going to be a Killmonger based.
I was just going to ask, who do we think the main characters of the show are going to be? Because there's a lot of choices. Because obviously, Shuri's going to be more the movie, but then you got M'Baku and you got Okoye and you got Killmonger if they bring him back from the dead, which they can do what they want.
So what they're saying so far, and what I feel pretty good about knowing is there's going to be at least two shows. One's going to be, and of course we say that's like 7 years out. There's so many years.
This is pretty far away. Yeah.
And one show will be 3 years from now, and the next show will be 5 years from now, things like that. But one's going to be very much the Wakanda universe, very much just about the place of Wakanda and who knows who really is that. And one's going to be more Killmonger, which I don't know if that's a backstory one. I don't know if that's a Futureverse one, but Coogler is signed on for, I don't know if it's official yet, but he's supposed to be on for at least 5 years to do different Wakanda projects.
That's awesome. I mean, a great move on Marvel's part. It's one of the highest grossing movies definitely in recent times. And it's just, it created such a universe where the universe wasn't even the focus. That's the really cool thing about Wakanda is like, while there are obvious references and little peeks and sneak previews, it's like, we don't know that much about it. So it's going to be fun to explore that more fully because the country itself is almost a character, its own world, and it's something that needs to be developed, and I'm glad that we're going to have the opportunity to see that.
What a fascinating contrast to this idea of like they still live in these tribal setups, but it's also very much this hugely advanced set of cities.
Yeah, technological society.
So that's super fascinating. Ryan Coogler is awesome. He is the best. Love him. Fruitvale Station's phenomenal. Obviously, the first Black Panthers.
Everybody loves it,
but I do love it.
It's one of my top 5. That's just my opinion.
So if it is going to be a Killmonger show and the other shows, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for whatever Coogler decides to do in whatever direction he takes. So yeah, the Wakanda show though, but it just keeps showing that Disney Plus is just a worthwhile investment.
They're never going to let up, man. That's the thing. I mean, I know we're very strictly Marvel focused, but it's almost seeing a war, which it's always been there, the DC versus Marvel, but now that DC officially has a home in HBO Max, it's just every other day one of them's releasing something that's going to come out in the next year, and they're trying to fight for your subscriptions. Or you can just...
We have the Star Wars Stuff podcast, and they got something new coming out there every week, so it's exciting that they're making more and more programming, more unique stuff, not just relying on backlogs, so we don't have to rewatch Kim Possible 10,000 times.
Hey, I would do it.
I have at least 3 times. No, I'm dead serious. Love it.
I mean, that's my ringtone.
Yeah, that's the obvious ringtone. You should just keep that forever. I hope your kids ask you that in like 30 years. Just like, what is that stupid text tone?
Okay. And then there's a few other rumors out there about the Spider-Man, and Tom Holland gave some cryptic tweet about I did something cool. Like, yeah, we know what you did. You filmed it. The other Spider-Man from the other universes were there. It was great.
Yeah, he also had a quote where he
did they do anything with Tom Holland? Because he can't keep a secret to save his life.
I don't know.
He didn't even get the full Infinity War and Endgame scripts.
Yeah.
But he's so cute though. So it's
you gotta imagine, like, he's already my age, a year or two younger. So it's just like, can you imagine if we were cast in a Marvel film and we weren't allowed to talk about it? Like, that would suck.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I would pee my pants with fear.
Yeah,
I would not want to risk telling anything.
That's
he
why
just,
he wasn't so bad
out.
at first. He waited until he was in Spider-Man 2 or 3 movies. He's like, they're probably not going to fire me. I'll just say what I want.
Say what I want now. So we'll see how that goes. All right, the last thing we need to talk about, this is the important things, the Super Bowl.
Why is that important?
Obviously, everybody, you guys don't care about Bucks versus...
Okay, the only applicable part of that is super. They usually play trailers for big movies during the Super Bowl, which is all I care about.
Exactly right. So the big thing to hit Super Bowl are the Super Bowl ads. And often we know things coming into them. We don't know a ton this year. Usually I feel like going into it, you're like, hey, these 6 big movies are going to have trailers. The only one that seems pretty likely is going to be Venom. It seems like that's being said. It's going to drop.
Carnage? Did they officially give it that name? Let There Be Carnage? Is that the actual Venom 2 title, or is that just a fan thing?
I haven't heard an official release on that title yet. I guess.
Maybe we'll find out on the Super Bowl.
Maybe we'll find out on the Super Bowl. But I think that's one to look out for. If you don't watch the Super Bowl, just kind of keep Twitter open, and I'm sure you'll see it as soon as it drops in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But the question is there anything else? Is there any other project that could be coming up that
I had heard rumors, which it was on a Kevin Smith podcast. So he's sometimes reliable, sometimes he's also very fond of coming up with his own fan theories. That's part of his charm. But I've heard that they're going to be teasing a Black Widow pseudo trailer that they're actually going to release it onto Disney Plus.
Which, that happens a lot. I think we'll probably see one. We'll either see a WandaVision or a Winter Soldier Falcon trailer, because as much as we and other one listening to this podcast already know about those things and they're great and they're cool, the average person watching the Super Bowl probably doesn't.
Nope.
They probably have been like, man, you guys remember when Marvel used to make movies? Those were great. I wish they'd bring something back.
I could see them dropping a Winter Soldier Falcon one. I don't know that they would do WandaVision.
Yeah, it seems like we're...
Well, you'd be teasing a finale, and then in that way... That kind of makes sense, because it's like you get them to subscribe early, and it's like there's a big buildup. They've got a lot of money invested. What's another $5 million to do a Super Bowl commercial to help bolster the product?
They could do a mashup of footage from WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Hawkeye, Loki.
The Disney Plus trailer.
Essentially.
A whole minute-long Disney Plus. Hey, here's a little bit of Mandalorian. Here's a little piece of... It could do something like that, which... hey, if you don't care about the Bucks +3, which I do not have money on, by the way, in case anyone's wondering. But if you want to root for me, I'm trying to win like $200 here. But it's exciting, and the Super Bowl ads should be great. I hope there's something cool. I don't like being in the dark. COVID has made us in the dark on a lot more things, and I don't love it. Kind of wish.
Yeah, it's plus it's just like everybody's like finally getting their fix with WandaVision. Like, oh my god, I really need something Marvel. This is ridiculous. So I'm glad we're finally getting all of these releases after each other, so everybody can kind of chill out and mellow out a bit. And now we got a lot of cool things coming out. And there's a lot to look forward to, but there's still things happening right now, which is nice. When there was almost a year gap, or over a year gap, whatever it was since Far From Home came out. That's the last big Marvel project. So that was a long time for fans to wait for something good.
Yeah. Like I said, there's probably plenty of fans who don't even know WandaVision exists. They're just waiting for the next movie, which is pretty typical of fans. So we'll see all that, all kinds of worst case scenario. There's going to be some funny Doritos commercials. And
hey, love those.
You know,
those are great.
Does it remember the rock, paper, scissors one where the guy throws the rock at the guy? Because that's my favorite commercial of all time.
Ray's like, I've never seen a Super Bowl in my entire life.
Right, so the Super Bowl
I know one Super Bowl commercial.
Sports teams.
And that's when I don't even know what team it was, but some football players recreated the end dance to Dirty Dancing.
That's true. I remember. Yeah, that is.
That's the only one I remember ever seeing.
You got a better memory than me because I don't remember that. I've seen every Super Bowl for the last 10 years.
So, needless to say, you guys can join Ray on her Facebook page. She's doing a live watch of the Super Bowl. You guys can
okay.
It's gonna be.
She's actually just gonna have Wandavision on in the other corner. Like, I'm watching the Super Bowl.
I'll just be sitting in a corner watching WandaVision, just like I am once again crying over Wanda Maximoff.
I know, every time. It's emotional stuff. But that's great stuff. Is there anything else we need to hit on? Are there any other news out there that anyone else thinks?
I mean, little hints. There's like little nuggets here and there that get dropped every once in a while. Like, I believe it's confirmed that War Machine's gonna be in Falcon Winter Soldier, which is a neat little thing. It's not super intense or anything. I mean, you could almost see it coming just because, they all know each other now, but it's still going to be really cool.
I know, right? Obviously, like, oh, man, War Machine. That's not that explicit. When he was in Iron Man 2, we're like, this guy sucks. Stupid War Machine taking up screen time. But when he's in, like, the Winter Soldier show, you're like, oh, yeah.
It'll be fun. I enjoy him, so we'll see what happens.
I'm excited about it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us on the Marvel Stuff podcast. We hope to get this stuff on its own page without streaming it to our Star Wars one. We're having a little fun with the licensing department on the old Apple there. So we'll get them up. We'll get them running. It'll be exciting.
Check us out on Spotify for sure. It is up on there.
Check us out on Spotify. Share it with your friends. Tell us stuff. I know my buddy Dilla wanted a shout out, so that means someone watched, and hopefully that means someone watches again. So if you guys are also like my friend Dilla, now we're talking. Now we got things moving, rolling along. But we're excited to see you guys. I love being on the Facebook group. You guys are great. It's funny to see the memes posted and dropped all over the place. So I look forward to another week of that, and look forward to seeing you guys again. In the meantime, don't have too much fun without us, all right?
Yeah, this was fun times, guys. Good hanging out. Can't wait to get more people on. It's going to be good times.
Do we have like an end closer like for the Star Wars Stuff podcast?
Yeah, I just said it. No,
like a catchphrase.
Yeah, don't have too
much. Check us out on Marvelous Mondays.
On Marvelous Mondays.
Shout out to Darius. He came up with that.
That is when we drop on Marvelous Mondays. All right, see you guys.
Bye.